The thing you have been waiting for has already left the upper room. It is in motion. It is on its way through the lower rooms of your situation right now, and you cannot see it yet, because breakthroughs do not announce themselves before they arrive. They arrive, and then you know. Stay here with me for the next few minutes. Before this message ends, I am going to show you why the season that has felt most like nothing is happening is almost always the season when the most is happening beneath the surface you can see. And I am going to place in your open hand one sentence from a letter written to a young church in a city built on 7 hills. A sentence that was not written as a comfort. It was written as a report, a dispatch from someone who had seen enough of how I work to know that the appearing of the thing and the working of the thing are almost never the same moment. The working begins long before the appearing, and the appearing is always closer than it looks from inside the waiting. I see you. Not the version of you that answered the door this morning, the version sitting behind the door, the one who has been in the same season for long enough that the season has begun to feel like a permanent address rather than a temporary stop. A woman who has been praying the same prayer for 3 years and has begun to lower her voice when she prays it because saying it at full volume no longer feels honest. A man who planted a seed in faith and has been watching the soil for so long that he has started to wonder whether something went wrong underground that he has no way of seeing. A young person who received a word about their future that felt like fire when it landed and now feels like ash because the distance between the word and the reality has stretched across more seasons than the word prepared them for. An older believer who has watched others receive the thing they have been waiting for and has sat through enough of those celebrations to know how to smile correctly while something quiet inside cracks a little further. A family that has been believing together for a specific reversal and has begun to have the conversations they swore they would never have. The ones that start with, "What if it doesn't come?" Each of those rooms is a room I have been inside. Each of those prayers is a prayer I have heard in full. None of them have gone quiet on my end. Place both hands open on your lap right now, palms facing upward. Not grasping, not clenched. Open. Feel the slight weight of your own hands resting against your legs. That posture, open palms, is one of the oldest human gestures of readiness to receive. A body does not open its hands towards something it has stopped believing is coming. Some part of you is still open. Some part of you hasn't closed the hand yet. That part is the most important part in the room right now. Stay with the open hands for a few slow seconds. Let the body practice the posture the interior has been struggling to hold. The hands can lead where the heart has not yet fully followed. Let them. Walk with me now into a story most of you know by title, but have not yet entered at the right door. A man named Joseph, a 17-year-old boy who received a dream that his brothers and his parents would one day bow before him. A dream I gave him. A dream that was true from the moment I gave it. And then I allowed him to be thrown into a pit by the brothers in the dream. Sold to traders, carried into a foreign country, purchased by an official of the foreign king, given responsibility in that house, then falsely accused by the official's wife, then thrown into a prison, then forgotten in the prison by a man he had helped who promised to remember him. 13 years passed between the dream and the fulfillment of the dream. 13 years. And in those 13 years, not one visible sign that the dream was still in motion. Not one morning where the ceiling of the prison cell opened and a voice said, "The breakthrough is still coming." Not one evidence visible to the human eye that the word I had spoken over a 17-year-old boy in a field was still the operating word over his life. Only the pit, only the foreign house, only the prison, only the forgetting. Now I want you to hear what was happening in those 13 years beneath the visible line of his situation. In the pit, I was removing from him the version of himself that would have mishandled the thing I was preparing him for. A 17-year-old boy who had been his father's favorite, who had been given a coat that set him apart from his brothers, who had been handed a dream about his own greatness without yet having the interior to carry the greatness well. That boy needed the pit before he could handle the palace, not as punishment, as preparation. The pit was not the evidence that the dream was canceled. The pit was the first room of the preparation for the dream. In the foreign house, I was giving him an education in administration, in management, in the handling of complex systems that no school in his home country could have given him. The years of running another man's household were the graduate program for running a nation's food supply. He could not have seen it from inside the work. He could only do the work. And the work was teaching him things the dream had not told him he would need. In the prison, I was placing him in proximity to the very people who would eventually carry him into the room where the dream was fulfilled. The cupbearer who forgot him was the same cupbearer who remembered him 2 years later when a king needed a dream interpreted. The prison was not a detour from the destination. The prison was the corridor that connected the foreign house to the palace. The corridor looked like a dead end from inside it. Corridors always do. And in the forgetting, I was teaching him the most important thing a person who is about to be given significant influence can know. That the influence does not come from the right human connection. It does not come from being remembered by the right person at the right moment. It comes from me. And it arrives on my timetable, not on the timetable of the person who promised to remember and forgot. When the cupbearer finally remembered, it was not because his memory improved. It was because I moved the moment into position. Every door that had closed in the 13 years had closed to teach him that I was the only door that needed to open. And when I opened it, it opened all the way. Pharaoh's dream, Joseph's interpretation, one conversation, one morning. 13 years of invisible preparation producing a single visible moment that changed the trajectory of an entire region. That is how I work. The preparation is long. The moment is sudden. The moment feels like it came from nowhere. It came from everywhere. It came from every pit, and every foreign house, and every prison cell, and every morning of being forgotten. All of it was the underneath of the breakthrough. And the underneath is always larger than the visible top. Lift your eyes slightly toward the light source in the room. A window, a lamp, the screen in front of you, just a few degrees. Notice how the light has been present in the room the entire time you have been sitting in it. You did not generate the light. You did not maintain the light. The light has been doing its work without requiring your participation in its working. The breakthrough I am describing works the same way. It has been in progress without requiring your awareness of its progress to keep progressing. Your not seeing it has not slowed it. Your doubting it has not stopped it. The working of it is not dependent on the quality of your believing in it. The working of it is dependent on the word I spoke over your life. And that word does not require your faith to remain true. It requires only your openness to receive it when it arrives. Let me read you the sentence I promised at the opening of this message. It was written by a man sitting in a prison cell in Rome, a man who had been waiting for his own release for years, a man who had written letters to churches across the known world about breakthrough and freedom and resurrection power, while sitting in chains that hadn't yet released him. He was not writing theory. He was writing from inside a waiting he understood. The sentence is from his letter to a church in a city called Rome. Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Walk through it with me slowly. There is more living inside this sentence than a fast reading will let you lift off the page. And we know. Read those 3 words first. Not, and we hope. Not, and we suspect. Not, and we are trying to believe on our better days. No. The verb is settled. It carries the weight of something that has been tested and confirmed across enough experience to move from belief into knowledge. The man who wrote it had been shipwrecked, had been beaten with rods 3 times, had been stoned and left for dead, had been in danger from rivers, and danger from robbers, and danger from his own people, and danger from foreign people, had been in hunger and thirst, and cold, and without clothing, and without shelter on more occasions than he had recorded. And from inside that accumulated testimony of hard things, he set down the word, no. Not as a performance of faith he was trying to generate, as a report from a man who had enough data to have moved past, hoping into knowing.
In all things. Read the second phrase, not in the good things. Not in the things that looked like progress. Not in the things that felt like God was involved. All things. The pit is in the all. The foreign house is in the all. The prison is in the all. The forgetting is in the all. The 13 years of no visible movement are in the all. The prayer that has been prayed for 3 years at decreasing volume is in the all. The seed in the ground that has produced no visible shoot is in the all. The word that felt like fire and now feels like ash is in the all. The celebrations you have sat through, while something cracked a little further inside, is in the all. Every single thing that has happened in the season you have been inside is inside the all, and the all is being worked. God works. Read the verb at the center of the sentence. Works, present tense, continuous action. Not worked once and stepped back. Not will work eventually when the conditions are right. Works right now. In the thing that looks most like nothing is happening, I am working. In the silence over the prayer that has been prayed the most, I am working. In the soil above the seed that has produced no shoot, I am working. In the corridor that looks like a dead end from inside it, I am working. The working is continuous. The working does not take days off. The working does not pause while you doubt. The working does not require your awareness of it to continue. Right now, in the specific situation you carried into this message, I am working. For the good. Read where the working is aimed. Not for an outcome, not for a result. For the good. The good is the target of all the working. Every pit I have allowed, every prison I have permitted, every season of forgetting I have not intervened to shorten. All of it is being aimed at a single target. Your good, not your comfort, not your convenience, not the removal of every difficulty before it arrives. Your good. The deep, lasting, unshakable good of a soul that has been so thoroughly prepared by difficulty that the thing it is about to receive will not be able to break it, because the breaking was already done in the preparation. Of those who love him. Read the qualifier. This promise has an address. It is addressed to the ones who are turned toward me, not the ones who are performing love correctly. Not the ones whose love has been consistent and undistracted and free of doubt. The ones who are turned toward me, even in the pit, even in the prison, even in the forgetting, even in the season when the prayer has been lowered to a whisper because saying it at full volume no longer feels honest. If you are turned toward me, even with a whisper, this sentence has your name on the front of the envelope. Who have been called according to his purpose. Read the final phrase. The calling came before the pit. The purpose was established before the prison. The destination was set before the corridor that looks like a dead end. You were not called into difficulty. You were called into a purpose, and the difficulty is the corridor between the calling and the purpose. The corridor has a length. The length was determined before you entered it, and the length is not infinite. Joseph's corridor was 13 years. Yours has a number. You do not know the number, but the number exists, and the number is finite, and you are further through it than you were when you entered it, and the breakthrough at the end of it is as certain as the one that placed a 17-year-old boy from a pit into the second most powerful position in the most powerful nation of his time in a single morning. Come back now to the room you are sitting in. Feel the chair beneath you. Notice the open hands on your lap if you have kept them open. The posture of receiving has been your posture for the length of this message. Let me tell you what that posture has been saying to the upper room while you have been sitting in it. It has been saying, I am still here. I have not closed the hand. I have not walked away from the window. I am tired, and the season has been long, and the prayer has been lowered, and the hope has grown thin, and the celebrations have cost me more than anyone knows. And I am still here, with open hands. That is the most powerful prayer in the room right now, not the most eloquent, not the most theologically precise, the most powerful, because it is honest. And honest prayers are the ones that travel fastest. Let me speak now directly to the specific version of the waiting that has been the hardest for you to carry. To the one whose breakthrough has been promised by a word spoken over them in a specific room on a specific night by a voice they trusted, and the word has not yet come to pass. And the gap between the word and the reality has become a place where doubt has been taking up residence. Hear me carefully. A word I speak does not expire. It does not have a shelf life determined by the amount of time that passes before it is fulfilled. The word I spoke over Joseph when he was 17 did not expire in the pit. It did not expire in the foreign house. It did not expire in the prison. It did not expire in the 2 years of being forgotten after the cupbearer left. The word was as alive the morning of the fulfillment as it was the morning of the giving. Because my words do not draw their life from the circumstances surrounding them. They draw their life from me, and I do not run out. The gap between the word and the fulfillment is not evidence that the word was wrong. The gap is the preparation room, and the preparation room is always exactly as long as the preparation requires, no longer. When the preparation is complete, the morning arrives, and the morning is always sudden, always. Nobody in the Bible received their breakthrough gradually across a visible progression of small improvements. The breakthrough came on a morning. One morning, Joseph was in the prison. The next morning, he was in the palace. One morning, the walls of a city were standing. The next morning, they were rubble. One morning, a widow had only enough oil for a final meal. By the afternoon, she had enough to pay all her debts and live on the remainder. Breakthroughs in my vocabulary are not slow progressions. They are mornings, and mornings follow nights. Every night you have been inside has a morning assigned to it. The morning has not been canceled. The morning has not been moved to a different person's life. The morning belongs to this story. Your story, and the morning is closer than the length of the night has made it feel. To the one whose breakthrough is financial and who has been watching the numbers with the same anxious focus, Elijah's servant watched the horizon for rain. 7 times. Look again. 7 times the servant went to look at the horizon and came back with nothing to report. The 7th time, a cloud the size of a man's hand, not a storm, a cloud the size of a fist on the horizon. And Elijah sent the servant running back to the king with the message, "Prepare, get off the mountain before the rain stops you, because what looks like a fist-sized cloud from where you are standing is about to become a downpour." Some of you are at the 7th look. The cloud is already there. You have been looking so long at the size of the cloud that you have not yet registered that the cloud exists. The cloud is there, the rain is in the cloud, and the downpour is closer than the size of the cloud suggests. To the one whose breakthrough is relational. The marriage that has been in winter for too long. The prodigal who has been too far away for too many seasons. The friendship that broke in a way that seemed unfixable. Hear the story of the father who saw his returning son while the son was still a great way off. Not when the son reached the door, not when the son was close enough to be recognized, while the son was still a great way off, which means the father had been watching the road, which means the father had never stopped watching the road, which means the watching was the continuous activity of the waiting. I have not stopped watching the road that leads back to the thing you have been waiting to be restored. The one you love is still on that road even when they cannot be seen from where you are standing. And when they turn, I will see the turning before you do, and I will be running before you have finished recognizing the figure on the horizon. To the one whose breakthrough is physical, the body that has been asking for healing across a stretch of time longer than the doctor's timeline suggested. Hear this without the softening that religious language sometimes applies. I am not always the God of the instant physical healing that faith communities celebrate most loudly. I am sometimes the God of a slower work in a body, and the slower work is not lesser work. The slower work is sometimes the deeper work. The work that is healing rooms in the soul that the body's quick restoration would have left untouched. I am at work in the body. I am also at work in the soul, inside the body. And sometimes the soul's healing is the breakthrough the body's healing was always pointing toward. Both are real. Both are mine. Both are in progress. Now I want to give you something practical to carry into the ordinary hours of the week ahead, because a message without a practice is a good feeling that evaporates by Thursday. A first practice for the mornings when the waiting feels the heaviest. When the eyes open and before the mind has finished assembling the full list of what is still unresolved, before the weight settles back onto the chest with the familiar certainty of another day inside the same season. In that first unguarded moment before the day gets loud, speak one sentence into the room. Not into the ceiling. Into the room. As if the room is occupied by someone who has been there all night. Speak it at whatever volume the hour allows. You are working in what I cannot see. That sentence is not a performance of confidence you do not feel. It is an alignment of your mouth with what is already true. The working is continuous. The working does not require your awareness of it to continue. But your awareness of it changes what the day does to the interior of the person living it. A second practice for the moments across the day when the gap between the promise and the reality feels widest. When a reminder of how long the waiting has been arrives in the form of a number, a date, an anniversary of the unanswered prayer. In those moments, do not argue with the feeling. Do not perform a faith that is not present. Simply ask one question out loud or in the interior of the chest. Where is the corridor taking me? That is the entire question. Not why is the corridor so long, not when does the corridor end, where is it taking me? Because a corridor is always taking someone somewhere, and the somewhere this corridor is taking you was established before you entered it. And the somewhere is good. The question reorients the interior from duration to destination. Duration is discouraging. Destination is sustaining. A third practice for the evenings when the day has not produced any visible evidence of movement, and the temptation is to close the hands and stop expecting. In those evenings, find one ordinary thing in the room around you that has been doing its work quietly, without requiring your attention. The chair that has been holding you. The light that was there when you needed it. The word that reached the right place at the right moment without your arranging it. Name it out loud. Something arrived today that I did not produce. That practice trains the interior to notice the continuous provision that has been operating beneath the visible line of the waiting. A soul that notices provision in small things becomes a soul that recognizes the breakthrough when it arrives. Because the breakthrough will not arrive in isolation. It will arrive as the largest in a long sequence of arrivals. And the soul that has been noticing the small arrivals will not be shocked by the large one. It will recognize it. It will know where it came from. It will know who sent it. And the knowing will complete the work that the pit and the prison and the corridor were always aimed at producing. A soul that does not simply have what it was waiting for. A soul that knows the one who sent it. That is the actual breakthrough. Everything else is the packaging. There is one final word I want to leave inside you before this message ends. It is for the one who has been in the longest corridor. The one for whom the gap between the promise and the reality has been measured, not in months but in years. The one who has watched enough seasons pass that the original fire of the word has become an ember, so small it can barely be seen. To you specifically, I want to say something about embers. An ember is not a dead fire. An ember is a living fire that has reduced itself to its most concentrated and most protected form in order to survive the conditions that would have extinguished a larger flame. The ember of faith inside you right now is not evidence that the fire is dying. It is evidence that the fire has been doing the intelligent thing under the conditions of a long corridor, protecting the heat, reducing the surface area, surviving the wind that would have taken out a larger flame. When the morning comes, and it is coming, the ember will not need to be replaced. It will need only to be breathed upon. And the same breath that first lit the fire knows exactly how much is needed to take an ember back to flame. I have been watching the ember. I know exactly what it needs, and the breathing is already closer than the size of the ember suggests. Leave one word below this message if something here has reached the place where the waiting has been living. Closer. Let it be the small flag you plant at the entrance of the morning that is already on its way to you.